Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. We are beginning chapter 15. Chapter 15 is very deep, so really looking forward to it. I've been listening to Naneshwar's commentary on chapter 15. So format today is we are going to have two readings of readings in English from 1 to 6. And then Yogeshwar is going to talk about 1 through 6. Then we will open it up for comments and questions. Then we will go to the next set of verses. So let's begin. We're going to start with David. David, if you could read chapter 15 from 1 to 6.
Yes, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, start verse 1. Lord Krishna said, metaphorically, it is stated, the banyan tree with roots above and branches below is imperishable. The Vedic scriptures are the leaves of that tree. One who understands this is knowledgeable of the Vedic scriptures. The branches of that tree extending downward and upward, with its sprouts symbolizing sense objects, develop due to the three modes of material nature, with roots spreading downward, also produce actions and reactions in the worlds of humans. Within this world, the inverted form of this tree cannot be perceived, nor its beginning, nor its foundation. Severing this strongly rooted in attachment banyan tree with the sharp weapon of detachment. Thereafter, go to the place where there is no return again by approaching the exclusive shelter. Surrendering at the feet of the Supreme Lord, verily the original ultimate personality from whom the perpetual process emanates. Devoid of false ego and illusion, free from degraded association, perceptive of the eternal and the transitory, disassociated from lust, completely liberated from the dualities identified as happiness and distress, the wise reach the imperishable shelter of the Supreme Lord. The sun illuminates not that place, nor the moon, nor fire. That is my all-illuminating, supreme, transcendental abode, having reached from which there is no return.
Thank you, David. Right, I'm going to read from the Sri Aurobindo translation. The Blessed Lord said, give me just a second. The Blessed Lord said, with its original source above in the eternal, its branches stretching below, the Ashwatha is said to be eternal and imperishable. The leaves of it are the hymns of the Veda. He who knows it is the Veda knower. The branches of this cosmic tree extend both below and above. Below in the material, above in the supraphysical planes. They grow by the gunas of nature. The sensible objects are its foliage. Downward here into the world of men, it plunges its roots of attachment and desire with their consequences of an endlessly developing action. The real form of it cannot be perceived by us in this material world of man's embodiment, nor its beginning, nor its end, nor its foundation. Having cut down this firmly rooted Ashwatha by the strong sword of detachment, one should seek for that highest goal, whence, once having reached it, there is no compulsion of return to mortal life. I turn away, says the Vedantic verse, to seek that original soul alone from whom proceeds the ancient sempiternal urge to action. To be free from the bewilderment of this lower Maya without egoism, the great fault of attachment conquered, all desires stilled, the duality of joy and grief cast away, always to be fixed in a pure spiritual consciousness. These are the steps of the way to that supreme infinite. There we find the timeless being, which is not illumined by sun or moon or fire, but is itself the light of the presence of the eternal Purusha. Having gone thither, they return not. That is the highest eternal status of my being. Yogeshwar?
अथ पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच ऊर्ध्वमूलमधशाखमश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित् अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखा गुणप्रवृद्धा विषयप्रबालः अधश्च मूलान्यनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धेनि मनुष्यलोके. The first two verses of the 15th chapter, they are giving one example. And so I've taken them together. That same example, which is of a tree, was given to Nachiketa in Kathopanishad. And it was summarized in one verse. But this is sort of, it's being explained in two verses now. The story of Nachiketa, how he went to Yama. Yama meaning the Lord of Death. And you know, Nachiketa was a brilliant kid. When his father was doing a yajna, he was doing a sacrifice to all the devtas. Then in that sacrifice, in that yajna, there was a donation to be given. And that donation included that you should give all that you possess to those who know, to the Brahmins. What his father did intelligently was to transfer all his property to all his other relatives. And then what was left for him, for his father on his own, was just such cows that could not give birth, or such cows that could not give milk, such cattle that could not even plow the land. That was all that was left in his possession. So he started giving his possession out as per the rules of the yajna. And then Nachiketa realized this. And then he said that this is not the way the yajna is supposed to be done. You are following the rules of the yajna, but you're not following the essence of the yajna. You're not following the bhav of the yajna, what it's supposed to mean. Then his father was like, you don't understand what the world is like. And then Nachiketa told him 2 or 3 times. His father got angry and then told Nachiketa that just go and die. You know, like normally how we just say, like when we're angry with somebody, just go and die. So his father told Nachiketa that just go and die. Like, I just give you to the Lord of Death in that way. Nachiketa then went, because he was an intelligent kid. He knew that death cannot come to me as I am, because he knew what the essence of knowledge is. And then he went to the Lord of Death, as in he left this body as it is, and then went to the Lord of Death. He waited there for 3 days, as per the story. He waited there for 3 days, and then Yama came, the Lord of Death came. And then the Lord of Death said that you've waited for 3 days. I allow you to ask me 3 questions to which I will answer. I'll allow you to ask for 3 boons, which I'll give you. So the first was about his father not being angry with him and also having the intelligence now to do the yajna with all the true heart. That was the first he asked for. In the second, he asked for the right type of yajna to do. And then in the third, he asked for what, because so many people say that something lives beyond the body. Others say that the body is everything and the essence of life dies with the body. So there's so many people who say different things. And Nachiketa is saying, you're the one who can tell me what the truth is, because death is something that tells the truth. Life can lie at times because of our perceptions, because of what we want to realize. But then death comes a point in time comes that when it comes truthfully. It comes with its reality on its own. And Nachiketa was not even scared of death because apparently his father gave him to death as when he was angry. But then Nachiketa was not scared of death. He was welcoming to death. And then he's asking, like, just imagine a kid even asking death, like having a conversation here that now tell me the truth about yourself. What happens after death? What is the essence of life? Because what the essence of life is what stays after death. So tell me the essence of life. That only you know. Nobody else can know that. And apart from you, there's no great teacher about this. Even though I meet a teacher who is on this earth, he will only tell me what helps me in life. But you will tell me what the essence of life is, surely. Then there's so many examples given about life, that the Atman himself is the one who sits in the chariot, and then the Buddhi is the charioteer. The 5 senses are the horses that go, and the body is the whole chariot itself. So many examples given in that perspective, what the essence of life is and what stays after death, and how to understand this whole samsara. After that, Yama continues to explain to Nachiketa that, you know how this samsara is made? It is made like this. This almost the same verses that are put in the Gita. So Yama is telling Nachiketa and Krishna is telling Arjuna the same point, that nature is like this. This is Prakriti. Urdhva moolam adha shakam Ashwatham prahuravyayam. There is one tree which is called Ashwatha. It has its roots up and it has its branches downwards, pointing downwards. Now, this is a tree that is totally upside down of what we would normally call a tree. This is a tree with its roots up and its branches down. Rahuravyayam, it is called eternal. Chandansi yasya parnani yastam veda savedam. Its leaves are the Vedas. And those activities, that karma that is said in the Vedas, if you know the right karma, then sansara, like the leaves, are what give the tree its energy. It's how the tree will get all the energy from around, whether it is from the sun or it is from the air. Getting the energy is from the root, from the leaves. In that way, if you're able to get the energy from all the actions that are said in the Vedas, then this tree will be able to reproduce on its own, will be able to get its own energy. Else, it will have to rely on something else. Yastam Veda Savedavid. If you know what this tree is, then you know what the Vedas are saying. Krishna here, you see, he has already said that Chandansi Yasya Parnani. He's not said if you know the leaves, you know what the Vedas are saying. Because Vedas are what the leaves are. But if you want to know what the leaves are, you have to know what the root is, what the stem is, what the branches are, and what the leaves are. If you want to go and learn the Vedas as they are, you will know the leaves. You will know what right action to do in this world. But then you don't know the root. You don't know the stem. You will know how to increase the world, how the world can satisfy itself. But you will not know the root of the world. You will not know how the world comes into existence. You need to know what the whole tree is, so that you know even what the leaf is. So Krishna here is giving a full perspective of what the tree is. If you even want to know the root, then you also need to know what the branches are. So if you want to know any part of the tree, you need to know the whole tree for you to know any one part of the tree. If you want to know the center in this perspective, you need to know the peripheral fully. If you want to know the peripheral, you need to know the center as well. You have not known the peripheral if you don't know the center. And neither have you known the center if you don't know the peripheral. You need to know it all. That's when you get jnana. That's when you get knowledge, if you know it fully. Now, Krishna is continuing on elaborating the explanation. Adhashordhvam prasritastasya saka. Krishna has already said that its branches are downwards. First, he had said that so that we get the perspective that what the normal tree is, as we know it, it grows from down upwards, is not what he is meaning. Rather, Krishna is meaning that this tree is upside down. Now, Krishna is continuing that not only that its branches are downwards, its branches are also upwards from where they are. A tree that has so many branches that now it can go, like it can go downwards, the branches can go downwards, and they can also go upwards. That many branches are there in the tree. Guna pravruddha vishaya prabhala. What is giving all the, like, just imagine, there is some liquid running within the tree, within the stems, within the leaves, within the roots. There is that liquid running within. Like when you cut a tree, there's a liquid that comes out. So guna pravruddha vishaya prabhala. How does the tree increase? Guna pravruddha. Pravruddha meaning how does it increase? Guna pravruddha. It increases with its three qualities of prakriti. Vishaya pravala, meaning what the gunas are vishaya. They come in the form of the five sense objects. And that is the liquid That is like the rasa of the tree. When we say liquid in English, it doesn't really translate to rasa. You know, rasa in Hindi or in Sanskrit means a lot. Like rasa means the liquid itself, then rasa also means that which attracts you, that which gives you the attachment to the tree. And rasa also means that which feels sweet. That's the whole explanation of rasa. And that which feels sweet is the guna. Whether it is the tamo guna, you see, what feels sweet is not only sattva guna, but you see a person who likes sleeping. For example, let's take tamo guna. Person who likes sleeping or likes being lazy, he will like it when he's being lazy. Like he will even tell others, like, you see, I've given an excuse and I've gotten time to sleep. He finds his interest in it. He finds his rasa in it. Adhaschamula nenusantatani. And then not only are the branches so vast that they can go up and down, but then even the roots as well, they are upwards. But then adhascha mulani anusantatani. Even up, even downwards are the roots all shown. Karmanubandhini manushya loke. This tree structure is what binds people. This tree structure is the karma anubandha. It is what keeps people going. And it is what binds people. Now, there's so many explanations to this example. So many examples of how I can explain this to you. So I'll start with some. One explanation to this whole tree structure, and I will try to relate it to each and every part of the tree that Krishna has said here. One part of this tree structure, according to the Puranas now, but the real thing is in the Upanishads, which I'll come to later. But then, according to the Puranas, somebody who's read the Puranas, how we'll interpret this is this whole world, yeah, it has the Dharma, which is the place to reach, which are the roots of everything. Like, let's put Sri Krishna there in that place, the roots. Then everything stems out of that. This whole world stems out of it. What the branches are different qualities that each person has. Each and every person has different qualities in all the directions, whether it's up or down, everywhere. It's not only downwards that people come, but even upwards. So many faculties that people have. And these branches are in such a way that you can do good or bad. It's upon you. Whether you want to go down or you want to go up, it is all upon you. And it gives you all the flexibility on how you want to approach this. Then with karma, which is said in Chandansi Yasya Parnani, with the karma of the Vedas, you can flourish. Guna pravruddha vishaya pravala. And even in the flourishing, you need the three gunas. You need the three qualities of Prakriti. That is what will help you, because it is part of you. It is what runs within the tree. It is the blood that runs within you. Those are the three qualities. Without that, you are not in this world. Like, you will be separated from this world totally. And that actually never happens. You're always in this world, some point in time. So how the Puranas will say this is that there are different categories in which people can go. Normal categories that which we are in. And then there's the Asura category where you're going downwards. There's the Deva category that you're going upwards. And while you're going upwards in the branches, there's also a point where you can reach the Paramadhama, which is where Krishna lives. That's the abode of Krishna. Another explanation that is given to this is in the view of those who go back in their own lives. So what they see is Urdhvamula Madha Shakam, Ashwatham Prahuravyam. This whole life is what is being talked about. And how do we know what Urdhvamulam is? Then that Urdhvamulam is where we come from. It is like the womb, the mother's womb. And in that place, we get everything to be gotten from there. When we come out, we do not disconnect from that. We do not disconnect from life as it is. We will remain with the essence of life, which will be the karma that is given in the Vedas. And if you can go back in your life, like if you can, for example, there's this concept of samyak smriti that is being held upon by these people. You can regressively go back in your life and know and experience what happened, how it happened, not just by your thoughts, but the practice that they use is when you go to sleep, you go regressively back to the last thought when you are young. In that thought, you continue going backwards in your life. Then there will be a point in time where you remember certain things of your childhood that bring about all your habits that you have right now. There are certain things, even go back to your birth, that make up the habits that you have right now. So in that way, what the Urdhva Mula is where you come from. It's where you've been born from. And all the connections that are there through your habits, through your memories, through your thoughts, through your emotions. So everything is gotten from there and it runs through your life until you die. And you see how we can have thoughts regressive, whether it's in the future or the past. That's how they say that the branches can go anywhere. They can go backwards in life, or they can go front. They can go into the future in life. The branches can go anywhere. That's how a person's life is. A person's life can go forward or backwards. That's upon the person, and it's upon the flexibility of the person. Karma anubandhini manushya loke. This whole tree is what binds people to their own existence, which makes what karma anubandhini here is the actions that are there right now, including everything that comes from their birth, including their thoughts, their memories, their emotions, everything. And it roots back to something there. That is Urdhva Mula. And when you go regressively back like that, you get to know what existence is. You get to know what birth and death is. If you can know birth, then you can also know death. In that perspective, that is the second explanation of this example. The third explanation I would like to give about this example is just see yourself as you are. You're seated right now. And let's say Urdhva Mula, according to the yoga tradition now. Urdhva Mula, meaning the root is the root chakra, which is the Sahasradala, is at the back of your head. And that is what the roots signify. That's where everything comes from. That's where life energy comes from. There's no energy that comes void of that root. All the energy comes from the Sahasradala, the chakra that is at the top of your head. Now, from there, all the energy comes into your body. It flows downwards, like the stem is there, and then it will flow into so many branches, into each and every part of your body, whether it is down or it is upwards. So that is how the branches are used here, that the branches can flow downwards or upwards. And here, what they say, Chandansi Yasya Parnani, what the Vedas do is allow you to do the right karma, to go on the right path. They show you how you should increase your productivity. They show you how you could increase your body, the cognition of your body, how you could increase the senses of your body by doing karma, the right type of karma. Others chodham prasitastasya saka, guna pravruddha vishaya pravala. They, in the yoga tradition, they focus so much on the gunas. They focus so much on the sattva, raja, and tama. What the sattva, raja, and tama signifies in the yoga tradition is how you'll interact with your body. Will you interact with your body lazily, or you'll interact only with action? Or will you interact with the greatest science that you know, with the greatest practice that you know, which is sattva guna? Interacting with your body with utmost love, with utmost concentration. How you interact with your body determines how your body will be. It determines what you're attracted to. It determines the rasa in your body. It makes up your whole body. Those are the three gunas. Adhascha mula nanusantatani karmanubandhini manushya loke. Now, in the yoga tradition, the energies come from the Sahasradala. They go into each and every chakra until the Muladhara chakra, which is at the base of the spine. When it reaches the Muladhara chakra, then that same energy also comes back up and it goes back to the Sahasradala. Now, this is sort of a circle of the energy, but we normally don't complete that circle. That's how the energy should flow, but we don't complete the circle. If we are able to complete that circle of energy, allow the energy to come from the Sahasradala to the base of the spine, where the Muladhara is, again back to the Sahasradala at the top of your head, then you're able to get what the essence of life is. You're able to handle your energies on your own. So, adhascha mulani anusantatani. Even the roots are best downwards as well, in a way that it will lead you back to the roots. Even the branches will lead you back to the roots. And it's that circle of energy that if you complete that circle, then, like if you put something to run in a circle, that run never ends. So in the same way, you'll be able to produce so much energy within yourself that you're able to go towards that path. You're able to go towards the eternal. What the different faculties of the branches are said are the different chakras that you encounter while going upwards now. Because normally the energy comes downwards in the yoga tradition. The energy comes downwards from the Sahasradala at the back of your head to the base of your spine, which is the Muladhara. That is normal energy. It's coming downwards. So that is how all the energy is coming from the root, which is up. Now the root of energy is up. What we need to do now is take that energy in a circle and take it up back. Now, what we do with the Kundalini is take all that energy back up. We start from the Muladhara now and take that same energy which is coming from the back of your head, the top of your head, and we take it back up. If we can complete that circle, then we'll have so much energy. And each and every chakra there is like part of the root. It is part of the root. All the energy that comes from the root, it is through its branches given to each and every part of this body. If we want to go back, we have to get the root back. Now the root are the chakras. That's how we go back. And that's how the roots are also downwards. Now we shall go upwards in our journey towards first the heart chakra, then the top of your spine, and then the back of your head. When you complete that circle of energy, that energy, if it's flowing in a circle, it doesn't have an end. Whereas when it's flowing in a straight line, it will start and it will end. But when it's flowing in a circle now, when you've got it to go back up and complete the circle at the Sahasradala, then that energy will never end. It's going to continue producing as much energy continuously in the circle, and it will go in circles continuously. That will help you to go towards the root and go beyond the Sahasradala. That is how the yoga tradition explains these two verses, explains the whole tree, which tree includes all the chakras and all the energy levels that we have, including the gunas that will help us go back towards the chakras, upwards now. And then there's also this explanation of these two verses. Now we have had the third explanation. So the fourth explanation that is also there of these two verses, subtle, but we'll try to look at it. This is our life as it is. Yes, there is this unmanifest where everything has come from. That unmanifest is something that we want to get to. So in normal theory, would put it as a goal, and our goal is always above us. So Urdhva Moolam. Why it is said Urdhva Moolam is that you're not going anywhere. Where you're going to get to when you get to the unmanifest is not something new. It is where you have come from. It is your own being. That is Urdhva Moolam. What Adha Shakam is saying there is that we are in this world and we are giving all our energies to this world. So we're becoming Adha Shakam. We are going into this world with all our karma and we're taking ourselves downwards. So all the shakas mean going downwards into the world, into the material, into the peripheral, let's say, from the center. We're going to the manifest continuously, forgetting the unmanifest root of our being. Chandansi yasya parnani, yastam veda saveda. What enables you to grow in this world? It's not the bad karma that enable you to grow. It is the righteous deeds that enable you to grow. Even though you want to grow in this world, you need to do righteous acts. You need to be righteous with other people. You need to be righteous with yourself as well. So you need to do the karma that is right. What will help you grow is all that right karma. Adhaschordham prasitastasya sakha, guna pravruddha vishaya prabhala. Its branches are in all directions now. Adhascha urdhvam prashritastasya saka. The branches are downwards and they're upwards as well. So what we are trying to say here is that you can go towards the center or you can go towards the peripheral. You have that liberty. Those are the branches, those are the paths that you can take. You can even go sideways if you want, because the branches are all everywhere. What takes you where you're going? What is the push and the pull? The push and the pull are the gunas. Those gunas are what allow you to flow towards a particular direction. For example, if a tree has a fruit, it will take so much of its resources towards the fruit. And that is really important because it needs to fruit at that point. And also us, we should identify those points in our life, the fruits in our life, where we are getting to because first we'll get to our flowering, which is those flowers that will bear the fruits. We'll get to a flowering, we'll feel nice, we'll feel at our peak. But don't forget, even at that point, you need to become the fruit itself. You need to interact with this world and become the fruit, because without pollination, there's no fruit. You need to interact with the world, and without interaction with the world, because this world is interdependent, not independent. There's interdependence in this world. So that interdependence that exists in this world is brought up by this guna pravritta. It is that same water, that same rasa that is going towards all directions. It's the same energy, whether you put it in sattva guna, rajo guna, tamo guna, the same energy will run. It is your energy that will run through the three gunas. And it is the three gunas that will pull and push you towards any direction. Adhasya mula nyanusantatani karmanubandhini manushyalo. Now, the roots are in there. We are told that the roots are up, but then the roots are also down. Don't forget. The roots are everywhere. The center is everywhere. There's no part that is void of the center. And also the point that whichever part you are in the peripheral, you are also at the center as well, at that very point, because there's nothing void of the unmanifest. Any point of the manifest, you are in the unmanifest as well. So adhasya mula nyanusantatani. The roots are also downwards. Don't only take the roots to be in one direction. The roots are everywhere. The unmanifest is everywhere. Karmanubandhini manushyalo. That is how everyone is bound to this whole tree. And everywhere, at each and every one point in this tree, you can get bound or you can get to your essence. You can get to your true being, which is the root. And why we want to get to the root is to know the full tree, because we have a perspective of the leaves, but know that that is only a perspective until we have not known the stem and the roots. Once we know the root, and we also know about the leaves, the branches, the fruits, the flowers, and the stem, because then we'll be able to know what the full tree is. And one point that I want to point out at last, after giving this full explanation, is Yastam Veda Saveda. It is not through just memorizing all these concepts or memorizing these verses that you get there. Who is he who really knows? Is because Krishna would have said that Chandansi Yasya Parnani. Yaha Tani Chandansi Veda. sa Vedavit. He who knows those verses in the Vedas knows the Vedas. Krishna didn't say that. Krishna said certainly here that he who knows this tree knows the Vedas. He has the real knowledge. And what we need to do is not cram any verse or cram any concept. What we need to do is understand what life is, understand the root of life, understand the flowers of life, understand the stem and the branches, and each and every part of life so fully, like be there in each and every part of life, that you can experience it fully and get to your own being, get to who you are, so that you can also know what the peripheral is and what the center is in the full context. That is how I would like to explain these two verses. So I would like to ask anyone who has a question or any comments about these two verses in particular, then we can continue to 3 to 6.
Wonderful. I wanted to say a few things. First, I have a question about the roots of the word Ashwatha. Can you explain?
Yes. So this Shankaracharya has done. Yeah. Shwa means tomorrow. Tha comes from the root stha. Stha means staying. Now the sa becomes a ta. That's a sutra in the Vyakarana. So it becomes tha. And that means staying. Staying tomorrow, that is Shwatha. Not staying tomorrow is Ashwatha. That is by the roots. Shankaracharya has taken it by what the words mean. And what Shankaracharya is trying to say there is, it does not stay tomorrow. It won't stay the same tomorrow. It is always changing. And that's why then they will continue to say that na rupamasya tathopalabhyate. The way I have told you, yes, in verse 3, Krishna is saying that the way I have told you, you will not be able to grasp this as it is, because it doesn't stay the same every day. And Shankaracharya also points out another point, that Prahuravyaya, they say it is eternal. It is changing, and they say it is eternal, meaning that the tree itself is eternal, but the tree always changes. It's always continuously changing, whether it is the branches or the flowers or how we live our lives, basically. It's always changing. And then the other way they explain Ashwatha is a tree. Yes, Shankaracharya also says that it is also a tree, but also check the tree as being not staying constantly, meaning it won't be the same tomorrow. So the tree aspect is also there, and getting it by the roots, the root of the words is also there.
Wonderful. I have 3 comments. The first one, I think this tree captures the nature of the relationship between center and the periphery in the most amazingly beautiful way, because tree is kind of, it's coming from the root. The center is up there. That is the root from which the periphery is flowing. So it's not center versus the periphery. It is flowing. It's one tree. It is one, the center flowing as a tree into the periphery, and things flowing back. So some of the branches are moving up. So if you're doing something right, you're moving up. You have all the potentialities. So it's a beautiful way of describing the relationship between the center and the periphery, and to see it as one thing. It's one tree. So I think that's really powerful. Your observation about completing the circle is also very profound, because the energy is flowing from the center to the periphery, but you from the periphery have to reach towards the center to complete the cycle. It is like in the Gospel of John, there is grace coming from the center onto you. But then you have to love God. You have to act towards God in order to complete the cycle. Otherwise, you don't have eternal life. And that is eternal life. It's kind of it's being reborn. It's kind of going back to the center continuously. So there's this movement from the center to the periphery. Also, I love the point about the interdependence of the world, that you are also taking in other things from the world to fully integrate it, because again, it's one tree. So very well put. Just really love the commentary. Folks, if you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to type exclamation mark or raise your hand in Zoom. We'll start with Evanik.
Hi, Yogeshwar. Thank you so much. I just have a question. I actually have a couple, but I'll ask this one first. When you're talking about, if you want to know the center, you must know the periphery and vice versa. Can you speak a little more on that?
So normally, how our mind works is that when we talk so much about the center, then we feel that the peripheral is something that should be done away with. We feel that the peripheral is something so bad that it is something that we should cut away from. And then we're always wanting just to go to the center. We leave out what the world is. We leave out what our connections with the world are. And we also leave out how the manifest is connected to the unmanifest as well. Leaving that out is a problem in that aspect. So what you need to do is know what the center is. Why we're talking about the center is for us to know what the center is. And then having known the center, you will realize, because this is a realization, this is not something that somebody will be able to tell you. This is a realization that when you get back to the center, you realize that everything is connected. And well, when you say connected, it feels like as if there are different things that are connected together, but you realize that everything is one. There's no two. It's like we were thinking that there are two because we were the peripheral. But now when you get to the center, the peripheral and the center are one and the same thing, whereby you come back to the peripheral at any one point in time, and you feel that you're still at the center. Not just a feeling, you experience it, that even though you're walking outside or you're talking to someone, you're saying something, you're saying it from the center. Any activity you're doing is just, you are at the center. There's nothing else. There's no any other place you can be. And so when we're at the peripheral, it feels like two. When we get to the center, it will get to the essence of what actually it is. Not two, but totally one. Center and peripheral all into one. And that's how the world is.
Evanik, you had another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you just flip. So you said that we have to interact with the world to become the fruit. What, I guess I just need a little more explanation, because I think I was thinking what kind of fruit, but I'm somehow thinking that it doesn't matter the kind, but it's just that it popped in my head and I was just wondering if you could explain that a little more.
So there's one thing that we also miss out when you're getting to the center, that right now, as we are, let's say, part of the world, we are part of nature. We do not know the part of ourselves that is the center. So we have to work from what we know. We can't start from somewhere that we do not know anything about. So we start from where we are. With all the connections that we have with the world, whether it is through our body, through our mind, through our senses, with the people who we know, with the people who we do not know, even the connections with our body, use all of them. Like we are using our intellect to try and go through the Gita. So in the same way, you use what you have. You use everything that you know about to try to know what the reality is. And slowly by slowly, you'll realize that, and even those who get to the center, they realize that I have been at the center all along, even when I did not realize I am at the center. So that is one thing to realize, is that for those who have reached, it is not something that they have gotten to. It is something that they were already there. They were already in that being. They were already at the center. But they did not know that they were at the center. They did not have the experience that they were at the center. Now, how will you have that experience? It is through what you have right now. So accept your full being right now, whether it's the emotions and the intellect and your mind and your body. So experience it as it is. Then use it to go beyond this body. Use it to go beyond the mind. Use it to go beyond the intellect and beyond the emotions. At that point in time, when you're able to go beyond all that you know right now, you'll realize that you've always been at that place.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. If anybody else has a question, you're welcome to type exclamation mark. Otherwise, we will go to the next ones. All right. Let's give another 2-3 seconds. Okay, nothing. So let's proceed to the next one, Yogeshwar.
न रूपमस्येह तथोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरूढमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण दृढेन छित्त्वा ततः पदं तत् परिमार्गितव्यं यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूय तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यतः प्रवृत्ति प्रसृता पुराणी. One thing we need to know is that this tree that we are calling the sansara, we are calling prakriti, is always changing. What we look at today will have changed by tomorrow. In all ways, even materially, it will have changed because everything decays, like everything changes in each and every 1 second. So in that way, prakriti itself is changing always. That's why you will never have one single view of prakriti. You'll never be able to say, I have gotten onto prakriti, like I've known it fully. Because when you're looking at it, even while you're looking at it, if some moments have passed in the middle, then it's not the same. It's not the same as you have seen it. It's totally different. Nanto na chadir na cha sampratishtha. Krishna here puts 2 other points that, yes, you will not know the sampratishtha that I'm talking about. You will not know how it is at this point in time. But you will not know how it was, and you'll not even know how it will be. It doesn't have a start, nanta. It doesn't have an adi. It doesn't have a start. It doesn't have an end. Nanto na chadi. Nacha sampratishtha. Now, sometimes you like to know that, for example, we give the examples of Atman or Brahman. We say that it doesn't have a start or it doesn't have an end, but it stays the same forever. So that's what you may think that Nanto na chadir means, that it stays the same forever. But Krishna says here, Nacha sampratishtha. that it also doesn't have one way of staying. It changes. It changes through both dimensions, through time and also through space. It changes totally. Ashwatthamenam suvirudhamulam asangashestrena dhidena chitta. What do you need to do with this Ashwatha? What do you need to do with this tree? Suvirudhamulam. Yeah? This tree is so much integrated with its roots. There's nothing in this tree that can go without its roots. If you remove the roots, then this tree is not there. Like if you remove the unmanifest, the manifest doesn't exist. So what do you need to do? If this tree is so vast, you can't even know it. How do you get to know it? So first thing to know is Suvirudha Moolam. Know that the tree is based upon its roots. Once you know that the tree is based upon its roots, then you can get to its roots. When you get to its roots, you know where all the water is coming from, where all the rasa is coming from. And know this, that, we say that the gunas themselves, the rasa which is flowing through the tree, the liquid which is flowing through the tree, or the water which is flowing through the tree. We may say that the gunas, which is taken as the rasa or the water flowing through the trees, is maybe good or bad, according to our understanding. But also know this, that this rasa or the water is coming from the roots as well, nowhere else. Because how does the tree get its own water? It's from the roots. How does it get its essence? It's from the roots. And know that all these gunas come from the unmanifest. So allow them in yourself, accept them in yourself, that this is part of the unmanifest. This is part of Brahman. Everything that I am experiencing right now, whether it is from the gunas, that's fine. But even the gunas are part of the Brahman. It is Suvirudha Moolam. Everything is coming from the roots. And then, how will you get to the roots now? So one thing you need to do is Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva. One thing you need to do here is how to get to the roots is do not get attached. Asanga Shastrena. Do not use any other tool. Do not start using a sword, or do not start using a cutter to cut off the branches or the leaves. What you do is Asanga Shastrena. With the tool of detachment, non-attachment. Yeah, I would like to use non-attachment rather than detachment. Because when you detach, it feels like you've removed two things apart. But non-attachment is you can stay with it, but it's just not, there's not this attachment from within. So it's the non-attachment. Asanga Shastrena, Dridhena Chitta. So do not start cutting it with outside tools. Do not say that I will not have this guna in myself, or I do not want this particular type of sense object, or I would not like this to be in the world. What you need to do is allow everything to be as it is. And then Asanga Shastrena, just with non-attachment, while you are there, just with non-attachment, Dridhena Chitta. Like, what you'll be able to do is understand the whole tree, because we are so connected with the branches and so connected with the leaves that we always want to go downwards in our lives. But just with that tool of asanga, with that tool of non-attachment, you're able to go to the roots and know the essence of the tree, know the whole tree as it is. And then there's also this other aspect that I would like to bring forward is When I say that the gunas are coming from the roots, nowhere else. If a person has reached the roots and is saying that, he is saying the truth. He knows what it means. He knows what that sentence means. While a person who is just at the branches or the leaves, who is enjoying the leaves, enjoying the branches, enjoying the different paths which take you to different places, rather than the true essence of being, how he'll understand that sentence, or what his understanding will be when he's saying that sentence, will be that it is fine for me to enjoy what I'm enjoying. It is fine for me to be here where I am. That's not something I'm saying. I'm saying that everything comes from the roots. Know that. So do not deject anything. Rather, just with non-attachment, because when you understand something, you become non-attached to it. Then you're able to know where the essence comes from. You'll be able to know where the gunas come from. You'll be able to know where the rasa comes from. And if you understand this, that even that small happiness that we are getting from this world, whether it's even the happiness of a sense object, it is coming from the happiness of Brahman. It cannot be without that rasa that Brahman provides. It cannot be without the unmanifest that we get this even small happiness that we are experiencing right now in our lives. It's all part of Brahman. That is how I would like to view it. Asanga shastrena dridhena chitta. And then continuing, Krishna says, Tata padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuya. After that, having being non-attached to it, then what do you do? What normally happens? Yeah? What normally happens is you will go back to your own essence. You'll go back to the roots. Tata padam tat parimargitavyam. Then you'll be able to know the state. After which, yasmin gata, if you go to that state, na nivartanti bhuya. If you go to that state, if you experience that state, you never come back to the worldly states. You never come back to the worldly cognition or the worldly perspective. You'll never see the world from the lens through which you are seeing right now. That state is Shaswata. That state is something that is always. Tata padam tat parimargitavya yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuya. That part of the verse is so sweet in that. So, what do you call that state? Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yata pravritti prasuta purani. What should you do then? You should know that this is where everything comes from. Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye. What do you call that state? It is the Adi Purusha. What we call the Atman, what we call the Brahman. That state is it. Which is called the root, which is called the unmanifest of the manifest. Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye. And what will happen at that time? It's not that you will have to bow down at that point in time. It's not that you have to surrender yourself at that point in time. Surrenderance happens at that point in time. For example, when you realize that this drop of water is the same as the whole ocean, the dropping into the ocean happens at that time. There's nothing that you need to do at that point in time. So the happening is what you need to allow. Allow that incident to happen. Allow yourself to drop into the vast ocean. Yata pravritti prasruta purani, from which all the manifest which we call anadi, because even Prakriti is anadi. The manifest is also anadi, but in a different way from the Brahman. It's always been there, but it's always been changing as well. So what will you do? You will allow yourself to drop in the ocean from which all the waves evolve. That is the essence of the whole verse. You allow yourself to drop into the ocean, tameva chadyam purusham prapadye, yatah pravrutti prasruta purana, from which all the manifest evolves, from which you allow yourself to fall into the ocean, from which all the waves evolve after that. So everything you're seeing in the ocean is the waves, because you don't see anything apart from the waves in the ocean. But when you drop into the ocean, you realize what the ocean is and you realize what the wave is. You realize what the unmanifest is and you realize what the manifest is as well. And the link between them and how one arises from the other. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvandvair vimukta sukha dukkha sanghe gacchantya modha padamavyayam tat. So Krishna is elaborating verse 3 and verse 4 and saying those two verses in different words now. How would you understand it in a different way? So first let's understand it in the same way. Let's know how it's linked. So how it's linked is nirmana moha jita sanga dosha. You first allow all your pride to be aside. You also allow all your delusion to go aside. So nirmana nirmoha jita sanga dosha. You also non-attached to all the peripheral. You're also non-attached to all the leaves and the branches of the tree. Adhyatma nitya. What happens after that? You become always going back to your root, always going back to your being. Because what Atma means is yourself. Yourself is the Atman. So Adhyatman means about yourself. And knowing about yourself is Adhyatma Nitya, meaning you're always constantly knowing yourself in the knowledge of yourself. Vinivritta Kama. What happens after that? All those goals that you had set in the external world, pertaining the leaves and the branches, they all just fall out. Vinivritta Kama. All the desires that you had, they fall out. So that is the same as verse 3, whereby Krishna is saying, Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitta. So these are the tools that you will use. This is the Asanga Shastra. Dvandvair Vimukta. This is also part of the tools. Dvandvair Vimukta. You are out of the Dvaita. You're out of the duality. You're out of the good and the bad. When you reach your own essence, you're out of that dvandva. And then also how the dvandva is also looked at is sukha dukkha sangyai. Because if there's something good and bad, what does it show you? Something good is something that will take you towards happiness, according to our perspective right now. So good is related to that tool that allows you to achieve happiness. So these are three things here. The tool itself, the attribute of goodness that you put into that tool, and then that tool taking you to happiness. Because your goal is happiness. Without the happiness, there will be no good. If that same tool will be taking you to sorrow, then it will not you will not tell that tool good. You'll say that tool is bad. And then the same way it evolves in the sorrow. So there is the tool which you'll attribute it bad. So there's the attribution which is bad, and there's the tool itself. That tool takes you to sorrow. That's why you attribute it, that this is, you give it the attribute that this is bad. But if that tool now takes you towards happiness, then you'll attribute it good. The tool in itself, what we need to know, is not something that has an essence of good and bad. It is us who give it the essence of good and bad. The tool on its own is as it is. It is how we use it that it takes us to happiness and sorrow. And then how we use it also determines how we shall view it in the future, because we shall view it with good eyes or bad eyes now, saying that this is good and this is bad. Another perspective to take it now, totally, is that when you are out of the duality of good and bad, when you're out of that duality, because you've known the truth, how you've known the truth is that the Brahman is what the truth is. Everything in Prakriti, however good or bad it may be, it is relative to the other. There's nothing good or bad without relation to each other. And even the gunas themselves, they are coming from Brahma. So there's no good and bad in the gunas. It is how I use the gunas. Because if I can use the tamo guna to take me towards Brahma, it's the best thing you could have done. It is how we are using the tamo guna that is taking us away from the Brahman. Because if something comes from the Brahman, how could you attribute it? How could you give it the attribute of being bad? Gacchantya mudha padamavyayam tat. What happens after that? That person who is out of all the delusions, amudha, who is devoid of all the delusions, gachanti padamavyayam tat. They go towards that eternal state. And that is the essence of verse 4. Going towards that eternal state. न तद्भासयते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम paramam mama. What is that state that Krishna is talking about? What dhamma means? It is not something that we have to reach like physically in space. There's no difference in space here. What dhamma here means essentially is house, is an eternal house where you can stay. What we mean by dhamma in Sanskrit, it is not just a normal house that we can attribute to griham, because griham in Sanskrit means a normal house. But then dhamma means that eternal home where you can stay eternally. Krishna here is talking about that eternal state in which you will always be. Tad dhamam paramam mama. It is beyond and it is mine. It is where I am right now. It is that state in which I am. How is that state? How does that state look like? Natad bhasayate surya. Somebody would like to think that since in the Upanishads or even in the Gita, the Atman is called Jyoti Rupa. It's called to have that essence of light. Krishna here is clarifying that light is not something about substance. It is not the light that you see with your outer eyes. And it is not that light that you get from the sun. It's not of that quality at all. That light is the light of knowledge. That light is something that never dims out. That light is something that is always there. And the sun does not emanate that light. That light is not coming from the sun. That is one thing. Second thing, that light also does not come from the moon. Na pavakaha. It also doesn't come from any outer fire. That light is on its own. It doesn't need, because if we call it something like fire, it will need something to burn on. It will need the oil to burn on. But this is not something like that. This is a light that glows, and then it doesn't need any oil for it to burn on. It doesn't need any attachments to anything else. It just burns on its own. And nothing else can radiate that light. Nothing else can lighten this light up. Because this light has always been there and will always be there. Yad gatva na nivartante, tad dhama paramam. After reaching that state, you never come back from that state. That is the eternal state that Krishna is talking about. That state is what is being elaborated in this whole verse continuously. That state is what Krishna will clarify at the end of this whole chapter. That is why this chapter is called Purushottama Yoga. That state is what is called Purushottama. This whole chapter is how to get to that state, which is called Purushottama.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. I just have a couple of questions and comments, and then we will open it up for any questions and comments. So first one is the word Shashwat. Could you talk about the roots of the word Shashwat and relate it to Ashwatha?
So Shashwataha, meaning Shwa in that same, now it means tomorrow as well. But then here it means it has a tomorrow. Yeah. So Shashwataha. Sa Shwataha. That is Shashwataha. And then there is a tomorrow. Yes, that means it doesn't have an end. If tomorrow comes, it will also have a tomorrow. There's no end in that way. Then Shashwata also means in that same, in taking the roots as well. Shashwataha. Now that taha means from where does that Shashwata come? Like where does the Shashwa come from? Taha, meaning from nowhere. It has always been. That is Shashwata. And then in Shashwata, you also get that essence that never changes. That state never changes. That is Shashwata. And in Ashwatha, in relation to Ashwatha now, Ashwatha means you will not see it the same as you've seen it today. It will have changed by tomorrow. That is Ashwatha, Ashwatha. In that relation now, it is something that is always there. It is also Nanto Nachadir. It also doesn't have an end or a beginning. But then you will not have a Sampratishtha. Where Krishna is saying, Nacha Sampratishtha. You will not have a being which will always be constant in Ashwatha. Whereas in Shashwata, you will not have a start, you will not have an end, and you will have a constant state in the middle.
Wonderful. One more word. In verse 3, it says Suviruddha Mulam. What does Suviruddha mean? What are the roots of that?
So Mulam We'll start from behind. So Moolam means the roots. How do the roots look like? What are the roots? How is the tree combined to the roots? How is the tree related to the roots? Then Rudha. Now, in normal terms, even in Hindi, Rudha meaning you catch onto something so firmly, you don't want to leave it. That is Rudha.
Yes.
Now, it also means catching onto tradition so firmly, you don't want to leave it. That's why it is now called Rudhi.
Mhm.
Now, that is the essence of Rudha, means you catch onto something firmly. That is that's the word, and that's what it means. And then V meaning Visheshena Rudha. It is in a specific way firm into its roots. Not only in a specific way, and then Krishna adds Suvirudha Moolam, meaning Sushtu Visheshena Rudha Moolam. Shushtu meaning in the best way. It is like Shushtu means in the most right way.
Wow.
Yeah, it means in the best way that you could get it right. It's like, you know, a tree is so firm into its roots. And it's not only firm, but then it's also attached to its roots. There's nothing that you can take out of the tree without its roots. If you remove the tree from its roots, then the tree doesn't have an existence. But the roots still will have an existence. So in that way, it is Suvirudha Moola.
Wonderful, wonderful. So folks, what do you think of this Ashwatha tree? What do you make of it? What did you learn from it? Go ahead and type an exclamation mark in order to talk about what you got from this amazing metaphor. Let's start with Evanik. Evanik, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like the point about non-attachment. And the thing of it is, you can stay with it, you can stay with the thing, but not attach from within. And it's allowing everything to just be. So, you know, I think of it as like when we are attached to something, it is like we make it a part of us, whether it's a person, whether it's a particular thing, whether it's an idea, whether it's an attachment to our ego or who we think we should be, or like, you know, our attachment to what others think. I think that's how we make it a part of who we are. But when you say non-attachment, it doesn't mean that you have to separate yourself from that person, or you separate yourself from the thoughts of, like, you know, what other people think, but you don't take that as who you are. So if you're focused on if you're focused on like what your boss thinks of you, or if you're focused on, and you make that a part of who you are, like if your boss says something, like if your boss gives you a critique, you make it a part of who you are. With non-attachment, the way I see it is that you can take it in, and if you need to make changes, but it doesn't become a part of who you are. It doesn't mean that you separate yourself. It doesn't mean that you cut it off. It doesn't mean that you cut the world off, in a sense. You just don't make that a part of who you are, because when you're acting from the center or the root of the tree, the root is always going to be there. You, who you are, is always going to be there. But, you know, even though the branches are going to fall off, leaves are going to be pruned like a tree to help it grow, like things that you, like tools that Yogeshwar was talking about with the gunas, the tools that you need, you know, you're going to use them up. But, you know, like things that you needed early in life, you may not need now. So that can become like the tree and the leaves that fall off. The root of you is still there. The very essence of you, who you are, is still there, even if you let those things that once served you, that no longer serve you, if you just let them fall away. Like, in a sense, let them die. So that's what I got out of it. The main thing I got out of it. I got a lot out of it, I guess, or don't get me wrong, but that was the main thing.
Wonderful. That was very beautifully put. Thank you. Thank you, Avani. Folks, go ahead and put in your own words what you got from it. So I'm just going to, while people are lining up to talk about what they got from it or any questions that they have, I want to say a couple of things. One part of it is it starts with acceptance of this entire tree. So you're accepting the root, you're accepting the branches, you're accepting the leaves. They just are. So that it kind of starts with that. It's not about saying no to who you are, to what the world is. It is saying yes. It starts by saying yes to everything that is. And then it says, don't get attached to the leaves or branches, because attachment means that your entire being is focused only on a part of this tree. So you lose this when you're attached. Firstly, a couple of things happen. Firstly, you lose this flowing of what Yogeshwar is, it's the ras. So that means it's the fluid which is flowing from the center to it. That's what you're losing track of. And you're losing also track of you going back towards the center, because you are just trying to stand there, looking at the leaf that you have, holding on to the leaf that you have. That's one thing. And the second point that Evanik, you brought up very well, is that that leaf is going to keep changing. And you're going to try to hold on to what it was if you get attached to it. And that's just not what a tree is. Tree keeps changing. So you're trying to act against the changing nature of the tree through attachment, and you are acting against the sap which is flowing through the tree. So you're losing that, and you're losing your ability to go back to the root. So wonderfully put. Thank you. Next up is going to be Brian. Brian, go ahead.
So I have some quick comments. First of all, I feel like when you're explaining these things, I'm swept up and I'm flowing with you. And then when you're done, I'm dropped back on, like washed up again on the shore. And when you're talking, it's amazing. And after you talk, I'm not sure I got it. I mean, I get it while you're talking, but I don't sure I retain it. So I'm so glad this is on the YouTube. And so it's just been, it is a wonderful experience just being here. The couple comments, this sounds like what you're describing is the tree of life that has been so, pervasive in really all the wisdom traditions, but never explained as fully as I've heard here. The other reaction was, as I was trying to integrate these metaphors or concepts, the metaphors is that somehow the center is in all of the tree. I see the center and the periphery intertwined, and so that the word that comes to mind is wholeness. The wholeness, the oneness of the center and the periphery, and the way things flow within it. And this last point that Evanika Shrikant made, don't focus just on what's manifest and what's changing. Don't focus just on the branches. I will say I really liked, I became aware of that there is a lot in this that I'm not getting yet when Evanik asked her first set of questions, because I never would have thought of those questions, but they really helped me understand. It evoked very useful comments from you, but I wouldn't know at this point how to ask questions like that. It's been more of an experience with these couple of observations I've made.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. Really appreciate this very forthright and honest take on it, because it is truly very deep and I don't get it. You know, I'm trying to understand it, and I'm very much aware that I'm in the shallows. Okay, that, and again, it's like, because what happens is that there are so many layers here. And, but at the same time, I'm always taken by the beauty of it. You know, beauty of a tree. Look at the, you know, it's like I'm listening to Nyaneshwar's commentary on this. Just the beauty of the tree. You know, Louis Sullivan uses this. You know, it's basically, it's a tree is a very powerful symbol, because its form follows function. You know, it's a living thing that is growing, and that is, parts of it are going to grow, parts of it are going to die, and the life is in the tree. It is integral to the tree. It permeates all of the tree. The tree is alive. So that life, which is coming from the root, is there in every part of it. So this, you know, or the function permeates the form. So it's a very, it's just, I find it incredibly beautiful, this metaphor, and I think it captures it captures it beautifully. I would say the big thing that this idea in the Western philosophy, again, I'm talking about this in a metaphorical way. There is a lot more to this, but I want to compare it in the way comparisons that I see. This is really Aristotelianism at its best, okay, of focusing on this integration between the deepest ideas and the material world, being able to go back and forth between that. This is not Platonism. This is against Platonism. You have center and you have periphery, and they're two different worlds. This is one thing. This is Advaita. So the life permeates through the living being. You can't think of a living being without life, and there can't be life without the living being. It's one thing. This is way, it's which way you are looking. Are you looking towards the root, or are you looking towards the branches? So but your perspective can change, but it's one thing. And that also is captured with this beautiful metaphor. So next up is going to be Marco, followed by Wal. Marco.
Yeah, from the point that the branches are the periphery, and I guess the roots are the center, and also when he was Yogeshwar was saying that that it was sort of like inverse, that's like that the roots are also like at the top, and the branches are also at the bottom. So I guess signifying that, you know, that there's no like you know, there's no hierarchy of like, you know, it's like I think that's what was meant, you know, that the both branches of the roots are like equal, you know, in importance.
I will have Yogeshwar comment on it. Yogeshwar, what does it mean for the root to be at the top and the branches to be at the bottom?
Yes, so there's one aspect of it whereby there is a really significant point to differentiate between the center and the peripheral, between the roots and the branches. And here the roots are above and the branches are below. how Krishna is putting it, that the branches are also above and below, both. And the roots are also not only above, but they also come below as well. In that perspective, how I would like to put it is, first differentiate it, that there are two different aspects of life. One as we are seeing it, and then one which is seen from the aspect of the roots. Then also accept this, that there is that life that is flowing through, which is one. It is like you first accept that the waves are different from the ocean, because the ocean is something and the waves is just something that you can see out of the ocean. But then there's also this acceptance, which is even subtler than that now, that accept that without the ocean, there are no waves. And the waves themselves, however different they may look from the ocean, they are also part of the ocean. They are not two things there, but one. So it depends on how you want to look at this. And then why we need to differentiate them at first is that you do not go by ignorance and say it is one. Because normally what happens is when you say it is one from the beginning, it normally comes out of the ignorance of the person who is speaking it, that this is one. So these sense objects that I am taking in is part of Brahman. So it's fine how I'm living my life. There's nothing to change, or there's no higher to go to. There's no center to go to. So that is out of the ignorance that I will be saying, because I want to stay at the peripheral. I want to take this happiness to be true. That's how I'll view it as one. But then what Krishna is trying to do is, first, he's saying that the roots are above and the branches are below. Then in the next verse, he points out that the roots also come down and the branches also go up. So first understand the difference and then make it one. That will be out of pure knowledge that you've understood that it is one. But if you make it one from the beginning, it may be, I'm not saying it always is, but it may be out of your ignorance, just to make up a concept so that you can also have these sensual objects for yourself. Like that's what you're feeling, that this is the only happiness I can get.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. And great question, Marco. Next up is Wal. Wal, go ahead. Wal, you need to unmute yourself.
I apologize. I am new to all of this. I'm new to using the viewer. I'm new to meetups, and I'm new to the material we're discussing. I'm very much a novice. The idea of the drop of water in the large ocean. I'm just sticking my foot, my big toe, into the ocean right now. But I want to thank you for having me be a part of it. And reading this material, one of the images that realizations, I should say, that I had was in questioning myself about that tree. If you didn't have leaves on the tree and you looked at the tree outside of the ground that it's planted on, there's very little difference to recognize the difference between which side is the root and which side is the branches. They're very much the same on either end. Kind of like time moves in that cyclical circle. And then the speaker was talking a lot about the flow of energy, moving up, moving down from the back of the spine to the root. And it got me to, he was also saying that most people's flow of energy is not constant and is not steady. It's disjointed. And I was wondering what his recommendations are for creating that flow and making it a better, perfect flow of from the back of the head to the base of the spine.
Wonderful. Excellent questions. Thank you. Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
So that is the third explanation I had given about this example that Krishna has given, which is according to the yoga tradition, saying that the root is up at the back of your head in the Sahasradala, and the branches are, because the energy comes from the roots, and the root is up at the back of your head. That's where the energy first comes from. Then you need to complete the cycle. You need to take the energy back up. What normally happens to us is the energy flows downwards through all the chakras, but it never goes back up through the chakras. So that's why the practice in yoga is let the energy come down through the chakras, which it normally does, and flow to the whole body. Then also have this of taking the energy back up, which is called the sadhana, which is called the practice of the Kundalini. When it is awakened, when it goes back upwards from your Muladhara, which is at the base of your spine, then it goes back upwards. It will now start completing the cycle. Now, how that practice is done is concentrating on your chakras, concentrating on your Muladhara chakra, concentrating on your heart chakra, concentrating on your Agya chakra, and that's how you will be able to make the energy. Because normally, just imagine this, wherever we focus our attention, our energy flows, whether it's through thoughts or whether it's through concentration. For example, you can concentrate on a part of our body. If we concentrate so much on a part of our body, our energy flows towards that. Even our blood flows towards that part of our body more. If we concentrate on that part of the body more. Now, the same concept applies to the chakras. If you want to allow your energy flow towards the chakras now, upwards, you concentrate your energy. That's the paying attention to the chakras. When you concentrate your energy towards the chakras, then your energy will flow to the normal parts of the body only as much as it needs to flow. The rest of the energy will flow to its right portion, which is to go up back to the Sahasradala, to the origin of where it came from. That's how I would like to put that practice. And this is in short. Like if you want to know the practice of Kundalini, that is like true practice and an elaborated explanation.
Wonderful. Let me ask a quick question. Yogeshwar, what time do you need to leave?
Yeah, so about 5 minutes, but if it's 2-3 minutes late, it's not a problem.
No, that's fine. We'll wrap it up in 5 minutes. I just wanted to let everybody know that this topic about chakras is a very deep topic, and there is a lot to it, because each of the chakras are associated with different aspects of ourselves. Our life force, our ego, our heart, our emotions, our concentration power, our speaking ability, our thinking ability, all of it are kind of these various chakras and the relationships between them. So it's a very large issue. Gita doesn't talk about it fully. There is a lot of Indian thought which deals with that. And all of this is experiential. You can talk about it conceptually, but ultimately it is to be experienced and done. So there is there is that aspect of it as well. So I wanted to say that I think the Ashwatha, this was a wonderful beginning to the 15th chapter. I love all these various examples that you've given. 4 different ways of describing it. I find it again, with Naneshwar's commentary, I just find the beauty of it just awe-inspiring. And so as Brian was pointing out, it is a very difficult topic, and we have to, kind of read it multiple times, mull on it. In some ways, Indian thought is very different from the Western thought, and you have to understand it in its own terms, and at the same time, separately related to what you know. So it is a very challenging thing. We're trying to talk across cultures. We're trying to talk across time. So that's I just love that. So what I'm going to do is that so firstly, I want to tell you a couple of things. So immediately after 11 o'clock, I have some questions for everybody about their experience. We have come up to chapter 15. So I have some questions for everybody, but we'll say goodbye to Yogeshwar. We always want to keep time and look forward to the next one, which is going to be on Thursday and Friday. So thank you, Yogeshwar. And thank you, Evanik, for stepping in for me. So I wanted to ask questions to everybody. We've gone through this. We're up to chapter 15. So I want to do an abbreviated version of the discussion format that I have. The first one is that when you now look at Gita, now I'm going to jog your memories. What ideas stand out to you so far, regardless of chapters from which they come? What ideas stand out for you? So that's the first question. So go ahead and type exclamation mark if you wanted to just name the ideas at this point. Evanik, what ideas stand out to you?
The ideas that stand up to me are attachment and the center and periphery.
Excellent. Attachment, center, and periphery. Anybody else? What ideas stand out for you? We'll go for Madhav, followed by Brian.
The 4 different paths: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and I think I'm forgetting the last one.
Dhyana Yoga, yeah. Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Wonderful. Thank you, Madhav. Brian.
The gunas and the yogas, the 4 yogas, how they relate to each other. I thought that was quite a revelation for me very recently, in our last meeting. Of course, Atman and Brahman, and but that is for me a big one, that first one I mentioned.
Wonderful. Anybody else wants to talk about what ideas? Just name the ideas that stand out to you from all the meetups that we've done. So for example, I think the idea of Sthita Prajna is a huge idea. That is in chapter 2. Okay, so that was the first part. Madhu, go ahead.
Nishkama Karma was one of them.
Yes, very good. So Nishkam Karma, which is kind of not, working without attachment to fruits of the work. So non-attachment to fruits of work. Very good. All right. So these are some of what we had: attachment, center, and periphery, the 4 yogas. Ashwin, go ahead.
Trying to I think trying to reach a center by finding the good in different states of being. There's a different gunas, the Raja, Tama, and Sattva guna, circling around the periphery and going away from the periphery, and sattva is the closest to the center.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Ashwin. So we've got attachment, center and periphery, the 4 yogas, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga. And we got 3 gunas, Sattva, which is taking you towards the center, Rajagun, which is taking you round and round, and Tamagun, which is taking you away from the center. Then the concept of Atma and Brahma, Brahman, which is a way of describing both the core and the periphery. I'm going to put the Ashwatha tree because it's a great way, maybe one of my favorite ways of describing the integration between the center and the periphery. Sthita Prajna, it is having this steady wisdom, so steady consciousness, unfazed by joys or grief, keeping your head, keeping your presence, keeping your wisdom, consciousness, regardless of what is happening around you or in you. That is Sthita Prajna. Then the idea of Nishkam work, that means doing work. This is a core idea of Karma Yoga, of being virtuous in doing the work without getting attached to the fruits. Brian.
What you just said triggered a couple more thoughts, but the one thing that I picked up on kind of incidentally as we're going through all these texts is that the peace of mind.
Yes.
Be very, I don't even know how to put it in context, but peace of mind came up a lot.
No, absolutely. That as a value, that is something, what does it feel like being at the center? That's what peace of mind is.
And then the other thing I picked up really from your commentary is the importance of concentration.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really seeing that in my daily life.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we have finished the first part. Now, the second part is about your evaluation. And we'll combine that. I'm going to combine the 2 parts. Look forward a little bit, a year from now, or 2 years from now. You've internalized some of these ideas far more than what you have now. What does it do for you? What do you expect it to do for you? What do you think would be the result of integrating these ideas into your life? What have you gotten already from it? What do you value already from what you've gotten? And what direction do you see? This is partly using a little bit of your imagination, partly talking about your values. So this is like saying, this is what I've already gotten. This is what I love about what we are doing. And secondly, we are looking forward a little bit of saying, if I continue along this path, what do I expect to get? Evanik followed by Penny. Evanik.
So the biggest thing is acting from the center, and the concept that Yogeshwar brought up tonight about being at the center the whole time, right? And so I think getting that and acting from who you are, I think that's a really good one. I think another one that relates to this is the concept of you in the shadow and dealing with the part of you that you try to hide, or that maybe has shame or anything with it, and embracing that as a part of you, and the part about acceptance of who you are and accepting other people for who they are, and an acceptance of reality. And I think in the future, it'll just help me to grow even more and to, you know, be more open to knowing new people, and not so much worrying about if they're going to betray my trust, because they may, even though they may not mean to. And even if they do, I can separate, I can still know who they are and still appreciate who they are as a human being. And if there's someone that's like deliberately out to hurt me, I can separate them from my life and yet wish them well, and yet and not bring what they did to another person, and put what they did, put what happened in my past or whatever, and not put what they did on another person, so I can learn and grow from that aspect. So that's how I see it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Avanik. So Penny, what have you gotten? What do you like about what you've gotten so far? And what do you think, what do you expect will be the results, say 1 year, 2 years from now?
Okay, first thing, of course, everybody said a lot of things, but two things that we got that nobody's mentioned yet are like the Namaste and the Om. Those are two big concepts.
Beautiful.
And I think that going forward, I mean, I would say kind of curiosity and questioning. And because I think, as you have pointed out a lot of times, that's kind of the basis of like the whole discussion between Arjuna and Krishna is you know, asking questions, looking at things, and just, you know, saying, gee, what's going on here, and asking questions. And so I think that basically being in the world again and being more kind of childlike is the way I see it. Not like thinking, you know, kind of like, oh, I know what's going on, you know what I mean? But you know, what is going on, and questioning it and being very open to trying to learn new things.
Wonderful. Great points. I wanted to emphasize all those 3 points that you made. One is the Namaste. Saying that when you're saying Namaste, you're saying the God in me greets the God in you. And what the profound transformation of human interaction that is possible when you actually mean that. Even if the other person does not respond. It's really, really mind-boggling to me. The second one was the Om. A is Brahma, which is creation. U is Vishnu, which is sustaining. And M is Shiva, who transforms or destroys. So it is seeing that there is a cyclical nature of life. And all of these 3 things are integral part of it. And you saying yes to it. And my favorite part about the Om is you say Om, and then when you breathe in, you're actually listening to the world. You're actually hearing the Om in the world. And the last point, I think, is very profound. The point about curiosity, the fact that this is a conversation. There is a tremendous acceptance throughout Gita of who individual people are, regardless of their state of knowledge, regardless of their abilities, regardless of their proclivities. All of that is taken as, you start with acceptance of it, and then you work with it through all, kind of saying, accepting all the gunas and using these 4 yogas in a flexible way. So it is a very accepting, and it has a redeeming kind of a quality, no matter where you are. provides and does it in a very gentle way. So that's and that conversation format of, it's not something that is being said to say to a million people, but Krishna is talking to his friend Arjun, and they're going back and forth. The man and God are talking as friends. That is very different than many other traditions. So I think that's a profound point. Thank you, Penny. Next up is Connie.
I'm going to say living in the moment, staying present.
Mhm.
The other things that were really important to me were mentioned by Penny and Evanique. And by the way, Brian, when he described about being so much in when Shogeshwar was talking, is exactly, it's like he was reading my mind. I'm so caught up in it. Then I try to talk about it afterwards and I just find I'm garbled. But I was able to answer that the Om, and I'm using that with YouTube and in my meditations, playing, the Tibetan Oms and taking me into a much deeper meditation. And even tonight, as I was listening to the discussion, I was meditating and extremely relaxed and taking it in a very deep way, and bringing great like peace to me during the whole meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Connie. So I want to comment on the point about being present. It's actually the same as concentration. It is the same as being at the center. In chapter 13, we talked about the Purusha and Prakriti. We talked about Drishta, which is the seer and the seen. So it is all about being conscious, of being genuinely aware of the world, of everything, and doing that in the present, because you can be conscious only in the present. So that's a huge point. And responding to both what Brian said and you said, these things are enormously deep. Gita is enormously deep. And this is true of other things that we are studying too, with the Tao Te Ching or the Gospel of John. And I sometimes, it's like I think I am awed by the profundity of this. And I'm acutely aware that whatever I'm getting, whatever I think I understand, is only kind of the top layers. There is a lot more to it. Now, the experience of listening to Yogeshwar, I think it's the same. It's amazing because he understands it better than I do. Now, again, he would also say that he's a seeker, and that's what everybody in Indian tradition says. Like Naneshwar, the way he starts Naneshwar is saying, look, I'm like a child who is babbling, and that's all I'm able to do. The Atma that is there in you, that the listener, the reader of the Naneshwari, you have the sun in you, and I'm like a firefly trying to throw light on the sun. And with that introduction, he summarizes Gita most amazingly in a single sentence. And that's what he calls babbling. Okay, now that is in the Indian tradition. And that is about curiosity. Just like Naneshwar says, look, I'm a child, I'm babbling, but the babbles of a child are just delightful to parents. Ask any parent. As long as you know that there is more, you should babble. You should express what you understand with the full understanding, both explicit and implicit, that whatever you understand is limited. And that you will notice Arjuna is doing exactly the same thing. He is saying, oh, Krishna, you said this, but you said that is obviously contradictory. Why are you talking in this way that I don't understand? So the idea of going back and forth, doing your best, and remaining open is part of the Indian tradition. And that's the only way I see of approaching these topics. You know, these topics are studied by people for all their lives. And most people who are very good at it have the same kind of attitude towards the end of their lives, even though they are considered by others. And this is not just in the Indian tradition. Newton, his view, when he described himself, is, I don't know how others see me, but as for myself, I seem to have been only a child, only a boy playing on a seashore who discovered some shells to be shinier than others. So this is completely in the tradition of scientific tradition of trying to understand the world. It is completely in the Indian tradition of curiosity. So at the same time, I think there is a grandeur in a child playing with shells, or Naneshwar speaking, or what all of us are trying to do. So thank you, Connie, and thank you, Brian. Brian, you're next.
The you asked us to think about what about the future.
Yes.
And the thought that come to me, I guess what I would hope for is the sense of stability and peace of mind. But then I heard Penny say the curiosity, and you added the wonderment to it, sense of wonder and curiosity and openness. And somehow that all came together for me, that the stability and peace of mind comes from the curiosity and the openness. The stability is not like being a rock. It's more like being flexible, being water. Things flow through you and past you and around you, and just being amazed and curious about that.
Beautiful, beautifully put. Thank you, Brian. All right, last question. Last question is about, so what we did was that we started by recounting what we remember as being useful to us. Then we talked about our feelings about what we have done. Then we talked about our projection about what we think is possible. The last one is going to be on practical things. What do you think? What can you do concretely to move along this path? What will you do yourself? And how does it impact practically? How does it impact other people around you? Now that, wherever you see yourself right now, or wherever you see yourself a little bit later, how does it practically impact people around you. And if you want to, so there is two parts: others, affecting others, and second is what will you do, what kind of practices you will do, concrete things you can do, habits, skills in order to pursue this. Connie, okay, Connie followed by Ebony. Connie.
Less judgmental of others. In other words, understanding that we all are different, and not being rigid in expecting people to be like me, and allowing them to be who they are. And I can do this by the manner in which I speak to people and the manner in which I listen, truly listen, engage, and be kinder, really come from a love towards them, and the love in, God in me to see the God in them, that whole idea. And I've been using that even in my walks, when I take my daily walks, and I just say that over and over in accepting, or if something is annoying me about someone, or I'm getting impatient, to just say that to myself to get me back in a place of center.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Connie. Next up is Evanique.
Yeah, I think practically what it does is, from the moment I get up, I become more grateful for what I have. Earlier in the Gita meetups, we were talking about, the concept of being grateful for what we have at the moment and not desiring what we don't have. And I think the point about not desiring what we don't have has been great, because I can focus on what I do have, and realizing all the time throughout the day that I have more than most people. And not saying that to brag, because I don't have I'm not like rich, but for a lot of people in this world, I'm rich, right? I have food in the fridge, a roof over my head, money in the bank, and access to a lot of comfort. So recognizing that and being grateful for what I have. I think number two, what Connie said, is the concept of Namaste. And how that's helped me practically is, when someone is being a little, when someone is upset or, angry or whatever, is like seeing, the God in them, and then recognizing that they could be having a bad day, or, there could be some deep turmoil, or it's not even something that I have to understand. It's by treating them by treating them like the God in them, it helps me look at the God in me, and it helps me to practice, self-forgiveness as well as forgiveness for others. And, the concept of, just recognizing that, people are not going to act in the way that you expect them to all the time. So when you're not desiring what you want, or not having expectations of people, and just allowing them to be who they are in that moment, it helps me become more accepting. And I think the concept of accepting reality means, I don't hope for what isn't happening right at the moment. I deal with what there is to deal with in that moment, handling it and moving on in my day. I think the last concept of the, again, of attachment is like, not being attached to a goal. You know, a goal is fine to have. It's good to have because you need to aim towards something, but you may not make it, and that's okay. And, you know, not being attached to the goal or to the end result and doing the action to do the action, and not even doing the action for the goal, but doing the action just for the sake of that action and coming from the center with that. That helps, you know, when things don't go your way, disappointment, right? You can deal with that because it's not who you are and you're not attached to it. It's just something that's happening. And I think something we talked about yesterday is looking at the thought, right? Like you look at your thoughts and you don't judge your thoughts and you don't say, oh, I shouldn't have those thoughts. You just look at them. And like, I love what Yogeshwar said yesterday when he was talking about, um, you know, you're not trying to even get to the root of those thoughts. You're just observing the thoughts, and the thoughts are not you. And you can just look at the thought and just say, okay, that's what it is. So it's all very helpful and very useful and very practical. And I'm so grateful to you, Shri Kant, and to Yogeshwar. Hopefully he looks at the end and sees how grateful we all are for his commentary and for your commentary. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Evanik. I want to invite anybody else who wants to share what they have found, you know, how their interaction with others has changed and what they are doing practically in order to integrate this better into their lives. Madhav, followed by Brian. Madhav.
For me, it's been the realization that this mind and body are instruments, and the idea of the self that I have is an illusion. I understand it, I don't feel it, so that's the gap that I have to bridge, which is why I picked up daily meditation. But applying all the 4 different paths to this idea. So, for example, the Bhakti Yoga, this mind and body is for the Lord. When it comes to Karma Yoga, this mind and body is for the service of others. I'm a very intellectually inclined person, so better integrating myself in Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga has been helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Madhav. Really appreciate that. And this idea of understanding what your proclivities are and then adding the other yogs, even a little bit of them, I think makes a huge difference, because we can see the integration of various things in us. So I think that's a huge point. Thank you. Brian.
So I don't think I have a program, you know, but I don't know, I'm playing off of what Evanik said. I think I like a lot what she said. She spoke in more general terms, and I see how that also feeds into me, my life and me. So I guess I'd like to just stay on the path, just being on the path. The yoke is just just being on the right path. It's staying on the path. It's always being curious, always being open, never really, I was going to say never really being there, but, you know, realizing that just being on the path is the being there. And but also as she was talking about interacting with people, so in my life, what's going on is my grandchildren are growing up and they don't need me in the way they used to, which is some ways kind of sad for me, but I still kind of try to insist. I'm used to educating and being the educator, as my son used to say, the pontificator, and I just can't get away from that. But but I could see, they're more ready for more freedom, more independence. and they don't need that from me. Maybe they don't even want that from me. And then that gives me more freedom too. I'm realizing that I can stay more on my path and not just be holding their hand. So that's
Wonderful.
that's kind of a takeaway from these. I feel like that's a takeaway more for the immediate future from what's going on here in these meetups.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brian. I mean, for me, again, it's the Namaste principle of actually listening to other people, of trying to put yourself into their shoes, trying to understand where they're coming from. It's profoundly transformative, I think. Part of it is to let them be who they are. You know, as you're talking about your grandchildren, that's, you know, it's basically, you know, just having the saying, okay, they are who they are, and they have a God in them. And what that does is it puts me in a very different situation. And I want to say that, you know, I'm just so grateful to everybody who is here, who keeps coming to these meetups, because I learn so much from everybody. Because if you're actually listening to people, it's really revealing how rich the human experience is. And what you have is only like one part of it. Somebody, through their questions, it doesn't necessarily even have to be some spectacular knowledge, new knowledge. It's just that they're different. And you say, oh, that can be approached this way. So it's just amazing, the range. And it's not, it's several things. But firstly, I think the curiosity of the people who keep coming to the meetups is incredible. The openness is incredible. The backgrounds, you know, many of the people here have done many things in their life, and they bring all of that implicitly, mostly implicitly, but sometimes explicitly, but mostly implicitly, because whatever good things you do flows through you, and other people, if they are observant, can see it. So I think these discussions are far, far more richer. I did not expect to get as much from, you know, from these explorations when I started out. I thought I would get a lot, but it's been dwarfed by what I have gotten. Partly it is Yogeshwar. You know, Yogeshwar is fantastic. But in addition to Yogeshwar, it is everybody else who engages the way you do. So thank you so much. I want to tell you two other, in this discussion format that I have, I'm going to have two other discussions planned on that. This discussion format is actually leveraging the 4 yogas, leveraging the 8 cognitive functions that Carl Jung has. It's a way of getting at something, some topic that you care about from multiple angles. And multiple of us doing that, I think we see it far better than we could do by ourselves. So on Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be looking at Stoicism. And the topic is the greatest insights of Stoicism. There are going to be many people there familiar with Stoicism. Even if you're not familiar, you're welcome. And we're going to explore Stoicism, you know, using the full format, which is 8-stage, instead of this abbreviated format that we had today. And then on Wednesday, we are going to be discussing conversations. You know, what is a good conversation? I think we've been having some good conversations. And it's the kind of conversations that are quite rare in today's culture. So what is a good conversation? What's a good one-on-one conversation? What is a good group conversation. What are its prerequisites? How does it work? Exploring conversation itself using this 8-stage format. That's going to be Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope you will join us. And thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.